When his father was first elected president of the United States, Barron Trump was only 10. But now, at the start of Donald Trump's second term, the shy kid has become a cold, determined teenager already pulling the strings behind the scenes. As his father continues to make media appearances, Barron Trump is gaining influence not only in his father's empire, but in the White House itself. Some are already calling Barron Trump the next president of the United States. But who is Barron Trump? Today, we want to take a look at his unusual life and introduce you to his mysterious character. Because not only is Barron mysterious, but he also has big ambitions. Even when Barron Trump was born on March 20th, 2006, it was clear that he would never live a completely normal life. This was largely due to the fact that his businessman father was never home. Donald Trump couldn't even be present at Barron's birth. Not only was Melania alone at Barron's birth, but she also cared for Trump's youngest son almost all by herself throughout Barron's childhood. Donald Trump himself only saw his family occasionally, and usually just asked his son how he was doing in school. Things like reading him a story or taking him on field trips were not on Trump's schedule. But that's understandable because Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, was often very cold to his son. He repeatedly described him as an unbelievable loser, and when Donald often ran away from home without permission when he was young, his father punished him by sending him to one of America's toughest boot camp-style schools. But Barron was spared much of that. Instead, Barron spent his childhood with his mother in absolute luxury. He and Melanie lived in the family's Trump Tower, a 58-story skyscraper in prime Manhattan real estate. Barron grew up in a 3-story apartment almost 200 meters above the ground. The luxurious penthouse is not only incredibly large at 3,000 square meters, but the interior is more reminiscent of a royal palace than an apartment. It's made almost entirely of marble, and the banisters, chairs, and decorative objects gleam with 24-karat gold. There are crystal doors, antique mahogany and teak furniture, and numerous valuable works of art. All this in one of the world's most expensive cities. But living high up in the $100 million plus Trump Tower penthouse has always been a literal gilded cage for Barron. The parents kept the child out of the public eye, so Barron could barely make friends his age. Occasionally, the nannies would take Barron to neighborhood parks in New York City. Two of these former nannies have described how difficult Barron Trump was as a child. He threw huge tantrums at his nannies and abused the animals he found in the park. A woman who worked as a maid for one of his classmates posted online that the child showed early signs of sociopathy. In other words, a person who is barely capable of feeling compassion for others. Barron lived most of his life in isolation and was barely able to function in social situations. But when Donald Trump won the 2016 presidential election, all that was about to change. Suddenly, the then 10-year-old was in the spotlight, and it caused him a lot of stress. There was no way he wanted to leave home. And in fact, Melania was the first lady not to move into the White House with her husband, instead staying in New York with Barron. But with police protection costing the city more than $10 million a year, the two were eventually forced to move to Washington, D.C., and Barron started a new school for the first time. At St. Andrew's Episcopal School, an exclusive public school with a tuition of about $35,000, Barron became a complete loner. He had no personal contact with anyone there, was bullied by his classmates at school and online, and did not participate in any sporting events or school parties. His classmates at the time described Barron as strange and enigmatic. Then, when he transferred to Oxbridge Academy in Florida after Donald Trump's inauguration, he made a big impression there too. But much of that was due to Barron's security. He was escorted everywhere in the school building by the Secret Service and had to have bodyguards with him at all times, even when he went to the bathroom. Barron was also unable to eat his regular lunch in the school cafeteria and always ate from home. Very rarely did his classmates get to talk to Barron, but on those few occasions, what they found out was impressive because Barron was really charming and funny in conversation, talking about how he liked to play the video game Clash of Clans or watch Twitch streamers like Aiden Ross. Things had been quiet around Barron, but when his father ran for president a year ago, Barron was thrust into the spotlight. How much he has changed since then is especially evident in the fact that he is now a grown man, standing at 6'4" and already attending university. But even there, Barron is clearly a loner. Every day, the Secret Service transports him to the university in an armored limousine, and there are always 3 bodyguards at his side on campus. He accepts the fact that other students like to record him from a distance and then post the videos on TikTok. Even in his free time, he does not meet anyone from his university. He does not go to student parties and does not live in a dormitory on campus. Instead, he continues to live with his mother in the Golden Penthouse, high above New York City. It is also a fact that the teenager has never had a girlfriend, something he didn't reveal himself, but his father blurted it out on a podcast. If you watch Barron Trump on video, he often looks very lost, lonely, and even a little sad. Even when Donald Trump announced his recent election victory and everyone around him cheered loudly, Barron just stood quietly next to his parents with his lips pursed and his arms crossed, barely making a face. But it is clear that he will continue to do everything in his power to live up to his father's expectations. Barron Trump is no longer just a student. He is working for his father's success, and that gives him a lot of credit. In fact, when Barron attended one of his father's campaign events, Donald Trump said he was so proud of him, more proud than any of his other children. That brought a smile to Barron's face, and it also made Barron give his father his all. After his appearance on the campaign trail, he made some important decisions for the Trump campaign. For example, Barron organized almost every online appearance for Donald Trump and managed to convince Trump to appear on Twitch streamer Aiden Ross on Joe Rogan and the Nelk Boys podcast. What seems like a nice detail was one of the campaign's most successful strategies. Donald Trump became a real social media star, and the podcasts featuring him reached up to 20 million views per video. And a lot of very young male voters were reached by Trump's messages. Barron also came up with the idea of taking his father to various events, such as major UFC fights or car races. And in this way, Trump increased his visibility to young voters. In fact, campaign analysts now believe that Trump's success with young voters was a key factor in his victory. But Barron's ambitions don't stop there. He recently gave his first speech, and it was so well received that the audience gave him a standing ovation. Not only did the speech garner good comments about Barron, but news anchors suddenly started talking about a new, future presidential candidate. And Trump himself has already hinted that he would like to have a successor from his family. Perhaps the Trump family could one day truly become the next presidential dynasty under Barron and remain in power for decades like the Kennedys. What do you think of Donald and Barron Trump? And do you think we'll see more Trumps in power one day?